In this video, I'm going to talk about my 7-night cruise on the P&O Azura, which started from Tenerife. We had to get a flight to Tenerife, and this was included in the price. We got to London Gatwick, and the flight that we were on was a Jet 2 flight. We were meted and greeted by a representative from P&O. They ticked us off their list and we were able to check in. The flight took about 4 hours and it was straightforward, easy breezy. When we arrived in Tenerife, there was another P&O rep who showed us to a fleet of coaches that would take us to the port. The drive was about 45 minutes, and once we got there, it was quite straightforward just to get onto the ship. The P&O Azura can hold just over 3,000 passengers and has a crew of around 1,200 people. We were in cabin C712. This was an inside cabin and it was fine for what we needed. We were on a budget and that's the reason we chose it. It was smaller than the inside cabin on the Iona, but as I said, it had everything that we needed. And most importantly, for a British cruise, it had tea making facilities. So I definitely made use of that every morning and every evening while we were on the ship. The room was quiet and it was clean and we didn't have any complaints. A couple of days into the cruise, we went up to guest services to ask if there was any upgrades for balcony rooms. We decided to see if it was available and if we could afford it, since we knew that nobody else would be boarding. We were very lucky to actually upgrade to a balcony, and we only had to pay £50 for the privilege. This new room was much bigger and it was lovely. The balcony was extra large, which was okay, except that it was overlooked by the people that were upstairs, so that made it a bit strange, but it was really nice to have the outdoor space. The stops and destinations. On this cruise, we stopped at 4 different ports and we had 2 sea days. The 4 different ports were Tenerife, Gran Canaria, Madeira and Lanzarote. Our first port of call was Santa Cruz in Tenerife, and it was a short walk into town. We first of all stopped off at the information booth, and then we found free Wi-Fi at the McDonald's. One of the highlights of Santa Cruz was the museum, which is the Casa del Carnival. It was free to visit and it had a real mixture of costumes, very colourful, and it was really interesting to have a look at. Our second port of call was Gran Canaria, and it was a short walk into town and then onto the beach. The beach wasn't that big and it was very busy, very full of people. Our third port of call was Madeira. From our new balcony room, it looked like it was quite a distance, but the walk wasn't that bad. The first thing that we came across was the museum dedicated to Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm sure this is going to be a great place for people who love football and who are big fans of Cristiano Ronaldo. I hope I'm saying his name right. As you can tell, I'm not a big football fan, but it was interesting to have a look. We travelled just before Christmas, so the Christmas market was open, and we walked along the high street and found a display of a miniature village. This was really interesting because it was quite intricate, the work, and lots of people took pictures, and yeah, it was great. Our walk took us through the flower market and past the cable cars, and we walked on until we got to the old fort. Once we got to this historical landmark, the heavens decided to open and we had a downpour. We tried to hold out and stay in the shelter, but we realised that the rain wasn't going to stop anytime soon. So we had to then trudge and make our way back to the ship in the rain with everybody else, and we got completely drenched. We had rain macs on. The weather was unrelenting, so we did get completely soaked. Our next port of call was Madeira, and there were some excursions on offer by P&O, but we decided not to to go too far. So we just walked to the main town that we could get to, and we had a little wander around. There was another old fort that we saw, and we just enjoyed the sunshine. Our next port of call was Lanzarote, and again there were some excursions on offer, but we just walked into the main area, which was a marina. There were lots of restaurants which were quite busy around that area, and again the weather was fantastic, so we just enjoyed our walk in the sun. The food. On the whole, we found the food was really good. It was always hot when it arrived, it didn't take too long to arrive, and we didn't pay any extra. For breakfast, we tended to head to the buffet, and we would tend to head there around 30 minutes before breakfast ended because we like to have a lie-in. Again, that was no problem. There was plenty of food on offer, nice and hot, and yeah, very good. At lunchtime, we would head up on deck and go and grab a hot dog or a hamburger or a pizza slice. Again, all free and all included in the price, so we never went hungry. There are two main dining rooms on the P&O Azura, the Peninsula and the Meridian, and they are using the freedom dining concept, which means that you have to book when you want to have a meal. So you use the website on your phone, and it's quite straightforward. Even though you might see that sometimes the queues are quite long, the queues actually go down quite quickly. So once you book your time slot, you are given about 15 minutes to get to your booking. And as I said, we had no problems getting a table. And we had a table for two, which was what we wanted, and that was no problem at all. There were times when sometimes we would just go down to the restaurant and ask if there was a table free, and that was no problem at all. So if you're worried about not being able to get to the restaurant, have no fear. Just go down and speak to a member of staff and they'll be able to help you out. The entertainment. The entertainment on the P&O Azura was a really good mixture of singers and acts. We had a comedian who was very funny. He was similar to Peter Kay. We also had the house band Pulse, and they were really good. We had a couple of singers who had sets throughout the week, and they were excellent, and they sang songs that the audience really enjoyed. And each session, there was hardly any seats to be had because they were really popular. Throughout the week, there were two main shows in the theatre. One was based on music from the 80s, and the other was songs from musicals. Both were really energetic and the performers were really good. I'd have to say the highlight of the entertainment was a singer called Elissa Dean. We also had a Paul McCartney tribute act, and he was very good. He looked exactly like Paul McCartney, and his act, that one again, was very busy. There was also a busker who played in the pub, and that was not really my cup of tea, but again, the area was busy, so people seemed to enjoy it. The type of guests. I would say that the P&O Azura caters to a British clientele. The age range would be in the 50, 60 plus range, although there were younger people because there were families on the cruise who also enjoyed it. This is the perfect type of cruise for anyone who is looking for something that is nice and peaceful, where they can sit back and relax and there is not too much hectic stuff going on. The people on the cruise were nice and friendly, and it was really nice that most people did make the effort to dress for dinner. This is the type of cruise for people who are happy to sit out in the sun, who are looking just to relax, to read their book, and to be out in the sunshine on the sea. On the sea? On the ocean. How much did we pay? For this 7-night cruise to Tenerife, we paid this, and that was for an inside cabin, and then we paid the £50 upgrade for a balcony. We did not go for the drinks package because my sister doesn't drink, so it wouldn't be worth it, because if you have a drinks package, both people in the room have to pay for it. So I just paid for drinks each time I wanted one, which was fine. Gratuities were included in the price, so we didn't have to worry about tipping. And on this cruise, we also, there was an offer for onboard spending, and I think we received £50 per person, no, £50 together, and basically that paid for the drinks. Who would I recommend this cruise for? I would recommend this cruise to anyone who is looking for a budget-friendly way to travel, someone who is looking for a cruise where they can just sit back and relax and enjoy just being on the water. I would recommend this for families because it's a great way for big families to come together, and it's not too expensive, and it's a lovely way for them to spend time together if that's the type of thing that you enjoy. I would also recommend this cruise for people who don't want anything that is too out of the ordinary, too wacky, too loud. I'd say this is really just for people who just like enjoy their own company and enjoy a bit of a sing-song. If you are someone who wants their day to be filled with activities from morning until night, then I would say that P&O at cruises is definitely not for you. But if you're someone who is looking just to relax and enjoy their surroundings, then P&O is most probably the perfect choice. If you are interested in P&O cruises, check out my video about my experience on the P&O Iona.